So we are looking at the Universal M2-12 in my Pearson 27. And so 2-12 means that it is a 2-cylinder, 12 horsepower engine. This is a diesel engine. So what we're looking at now is from the front. So if you have the 27, you can see this is your stairway. So we have decent, really good access to everything in the front. If you go into the head, which is right next to it, there's a little hatch right here, which is amazing. You get to your dipstick, you can get to the air if you need to. There's some filters back there that I'll need to change out in the not too distant future because it's almost maintenance time. All right, and then if you come into the aft cabin back here, you can see that you take out these boards here. You have access to your diesel tank. Your black water is right underneath here. And then here's some of my exhaust. I have access to turn my water on and off. Lots of stuff. There's my Raycor, got my fuel filter. And so you can see there's really great access even to the back of stuff and the top of stuff. What there's not great access to is this side. I don't know if you can see that very well. I know it's a little bit dark in there. So what I'm going to do is there's this wooden section right here. So I'm going to cut me an access hole right there. And I want to cut it out in a way that I can use the piece of wood that I take out for the access panel. So that means that I can't drill like a large hole in order to get the saw blade in there. So I'm going to use a oscillating saw. I call them the super fun tools, and begin my each of the corners, like a corner here and a corner here, corner there. So that way I can go up, I can go over, I can go down, and I can go over, and I should be able to do a nice size little panel right here so that I can get to things on this side of the engine. So what's over here, I mean, the alternator, granted I can get to it from the front, that's not a big deal, but right down in here is where my starter is, my solenoid starter, and a lot of the wiring that I'm going to have to change out in this wiring project. So I'm going to say let's start marking this up and get to work. All right, so before I start marking things up, I got to look at a couple of things. So in the front, I can see that I have this piece right here. That is where my bolts are, my engine bolts. So I need to make sure that I don't come in from the other side too far down, because I'm going to hit that. So this and this is actually higher than, let's go around, this piece right here. So if I follow this piece around, it is the same height as this, and it is the same height as this. So if I measure from here to here, and I make sure, because this is taller than this right here too, then that distance right there will tell me how far above this guy I need to make sure that I do my horizontal cut here so that it works. All right, well, we have an access panel on the side. Looking at the top of the engine once again, and look at how much more light even gets put in there. So even looking in from the front, it'll be nice to be able to open this up and just have more light. All right, this is a pretty tight spot. Let me see if I can sit down here and show you a little bit at least of what I did. So here's our access panel. Fits perfectly, looks wonderful. I'll take it home, put it through the workshop, just square it up for one, and just give it a little bit more space, right? So I cut it with a very, very thin saw blade. I'll show you that here in just a minute. And so it fits in, but it's just super tight. So I want to put that, extra 1/8 inch saw blade width all the way around that, and it'll fit in real nice. And I have some of the backing wood that I'm going to put all the way around the inside. Give you an example. So see, here's a hatch on the other side. So I will be putting in that wood right there with a little clip hatch or clip latch as well on this side. So I'll go ahead and get that stuff put in here in a little bit. But look at how wonderful it is to be able to access all of this stuff on this side of the engine. It's probably the only lacking part. Even this oil filter right here is going to be so nice to be able to get to it super easy. All right, so how did I do this? First of all, let's put our wood back in so we can kind of see where we started from, sort of. Oops. All right, so I started with what I call the super fun tool. It's an oscillating saw. I'm sure all of you guys have seen one of these. You can get all kinds of different blades, but what I failed to pay attention to before I left the house, which is a half hour away from the boat, is that the blade that was on my oscillating saw has basically no teeth left. So I had almost no sawing traction on this particular device, and the closest hardware store is a half an hour away. So I thought, okay, let's spend a little bit of time and see if we can get creative. And here's what we did. All right, I'd already used a straight edge, of course, to make sure that I had my sides set and that they were 90 degrees to each other and all that kind of good stuff. So what I did was I put this back on my edge, and then I took a really, really sharp X-Acto knife and I just ran it along that just to break the fibers of the wood. And so I ran it all the way along the top, bottom, sides, and started the groove that was going to obviously turn into the cut. So once I did that, I did take my stumpy little oscillating saw and I just ran it along that groove, and it just kind of deepened the groove, to be honest, since it didn't have a lot of cutting power to it. So once I got that groove deeper, I grabbed this guy again and I just took and like wallered it in there until, this is a better view over here, you know, until it was all the way in, because I knew when it was all the way in I at least had broken into the other side of the wood. So I did that you know, as far as I could, and then I took this amazing guy. It's called a Japanese saw. Inexpensive one, Irwin. I think I got it off on Amazon, which I'm sure you can get it at any of the hardware stores, and brand doesn't matter, but you just want, you know, see how flexible it is, and it just works like a charm. So I just put it in that small hole and I just slowly kind of ate at it, you know, until it was big enough, the hole was big enough that I could actually get the saw in. And then, you know what, it took me seconds to go from here to here. Now, with that being said, let me see if I can get this guy back out of here. If you're going to do it this way, you have to really be careful, for you have wires. This has got oil, I believe, going through it, and this has got electricity going through it. So regardless of what's going through it, we don't want to cut it. So when I got to this part right here, luckily, you know, I can look over the edge and look down and see where things were. But I just had to go very slowly with just barely using the tip of the blade, you know, until I got past it. And then I was good. I mean, all the way up and around. I mean, this wasn't ever in my way, so it worked fantastic. All right, so now all there's left to do is put the backing in along here, so that this piece here will have something to set up against. So again, if we look back over at the other side, see this has this like extra backing that kind of goes over the edge, and then it has, I think it's called a clip latch right here. So that way, when I come in here, there will be at least a little bit of an overlap right here, probably ½ inch or something. So when I put this in, it will fit in nicely. I think I got to turn around. Fit in nicely, and then it'll have at least one clip latch up at the top, if not at the bottom too. I will take this into my workshop and just run the saw blade all the way around it, just to kind of, one, to clean it up, two, to give it a little bit more room between the edges here, because this blade is thin, so it doesn't really give you a whole lot of room for pulling that in and out. And I'll just take and sand this a little bit and kind of make it look a little bit nicer and clean it up. And then I think for at least now, we have got what I needed, which is an access panel. I mean, look at how much light it lets in there. The other thing that was really cool, I know we're not on this project right now, but see, there's all of my wires that I'm going to be changing out for my rewiring project coming up. All right. There we go. I am sitting in the aft cabin quarter berth, and it's getting a little tight, a little bit warm. So let's get this cleaned up and go home. All right, let's talk access panel. So this is the original access panel that goes on the head side or bathroom side of the engine. And you can see it has this really cool thing. Opens up when you open this right here up. you can pull basically on this little latch. Then it has these little guys here. They just kind of hold in the bottom. So on my hatch panel, access panel, you know, it's much smaller, but I was able to get the same kind of concept here. You know, you open it up, you can pull on it to pull it out. It's going to have the same little, just a resistance. That's just going to go through a couple little small wheels that goes on each side. That'll be on the inside of the engine panel. And then I made a couple of these thanks to an amazing addition to my workshop of a bandsaw. Thank you, Adam and Aaron. So anyway, this is what we're going to install this week. Super excited.